Most people believe Bitcoin's supply is simple. 21 million. No more. No less. A fixed number written into the code. But what if that isn't the whole story? Because Bitcoin investors rarely talk about another number. The coins that are gone. Lost wallets. Forgotten passwords. Destroyed hard drives. Early miners who disappeared. For years, the market has assumed those coins will never come back. And that assumption matters. Because scarcity is one of Bitcoin's most powerful narratives. When investors buy Bitcoin, they aren't just buying technology. They're buying a story. A story that says there will only ever be 21 million coins. And in reality, perhaps far fewer. Some estimates suggest that 3 to 4 million Bitcoin may already be lost forever. That's roughly 15 to 20% of the total supply. Nobody knows the exact number. But the market has quietly accepted the idea that these coins are gone. Removed from circulation. Gone forever. But what if they're not? What if some of those coins are only inaccessible because current computers can't reach them? What if future computers can? That question changes everything. Because quantum computing doesn't need to create new Bitcoin. It doesn't need to break the 21 million limit. It doesn't even need to attack the Bitcoin network itself. It only needs to unlock coins the market already considers dead. And suddenly, the story changes. The supply doesn't increase, but the available supply does. Imagine discovering that a giant vault of gold, believed lost for decades, was never lost at all. The gold didn't magically appear. It was always there. But the market didn't know you could return. Bitcoin may face a similar question one day. Not. Can quantum computers destroy Bitcoin? But what happens if they bring lost Bitcoin back? And if that happens, who owns those coins? At first glance, every Bitcoin looks the same. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. The network doesn't care whether a coin was mined yesterday or 15 years ago. But quantum computers might care. A lot. Because not all Bitcoin wallets expose the same information. To understand why, we need to look at how Bitcoin security actually works. Every Bitcoin wallet begins with a private key. The private key generates a public key. And the public key is transformed into an address. Most people only ever see the address. The public key remains hidden. This detail is extremely important. Because quantum computers don't attack Bitcoin addresses. They attack public keys. And if the public key remains hidden, there is nothing to attack. At least not directly. This creates a surprising situation. Some Bitcoin may be much safer than people think. And some Bitcoin may be much more vulnerable. The difference comes down to one question. Has the public key been revealed? Many early Bitcoin wallets already answered yes. Because in Bitcoin's early years, wallet technology was different. Address reuse was common. People weren't thinking about quantum computers. They weren't even thinking about billion-dollar wallets. They were simply using a new experiment called Bitcoin. Coins moved. Addresses were reused. Public keys became visible on the blockchain forever. And once something enters the blockchain, it never leaves. Every transaction, every public key, every signature, permanent. Waiting. For years, possibly decades. This means a future attacker wouldn't need to search for targets. The targets are already visible. Stored openly on the blockchain. Waiting to be analyzed. Waiting to be revisited. Waiting for better technology. And this is where old wallets become different. The oldest wallets have had the most time to expose information, the most time to reveal public keys. the most time to accumulate large balances, and the most time to become forgotten. In a quantum future, those characteristics may all become liabilities. The newest Bitcoin wallets may be upgraded. The newest custodians may migrate. The newest institutions may adopt quantum-resistant signatures. But a wallet abandoned in 2010 cannot upgrade itself. A hard drive lost in 2011 cannot migrate itself. A forgotten private key cannot respond to a software update. And that creates a strange possibility. Bitcoin itself could survive. The network could survive. The exchanges could survive. The EDFS could survive. But some of the oldest coins might not. Not because Bitcoin failed, but because time stood still for the people who owned them. And that leads to an even bigger question. If some wallets cannot upgrade, and some wallets never will, what happens to the coins inside them? When people hear about quantum attacks, they often imagine a hacker targeting Bitcoin itself, the blockchain, the miners. But that may not be where the story begins. The first target may be much quieter, much older, and much larger, because Bitcoin has a unique problem. Some wallets were abandoned. Some private keys were forgotten. Some hard drives were destroyed. Some owners simply disappeared. And over the last 15 years, those lost coins have become part of Bitcoin's mythology. The market treats them as gone, forever. But how many are we talking about? No one knows for sure. Some researchers estimate that 3 million Bitcoin may be permanently lost. Others estimate 4 million. Some estimates are even higher. That means roughly 15 to 20% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist. Not a small amount. Not an insignificant amount. An amount large enough to influence the future of the entire network. And most of those coins are not evenly distributed. Many are concentrated in very old wallets from 2009, wallets from 2010, wallets from Bitcoin's earliest years. Nobody imagined Bitcoin would become a $1 trillion asset. Nobody imagined ETFs would compete to buy it. Ignored security practices. Experimented freely. Some mined thousands of Bitcoin and forgot about them. Others lost access completely. And then there is the largest mystery of all. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, who is believed to control roughly 1 million Bitcoin. Coins that have never moved. Coins that have remained silent for more than a decade. Coins that have become almost legendary for many investors. Those coins are mentally removed from supply. They exist, but they don't matter because nobody expects them to move. But what if that assumption changes? What if a future attacker doesn't need Satoshi's private key? What if they only need a powerful enough quantum computer? Suddenly, the largest dormant Bitcoin fortune in history becomes relevant again, and not just the Satoshi. Thousands of old wallets could face the same question. Some contain hundreds of Bitcoin, some contain thousands, some contain tens of thousands, all sitting quietly on the blockchain, all waiting. The strange thing is that these coins don't need to move to affect the market. The possibility alone may be enough, because market's price expectations, not just reality. The moment investors began asking, could these coins come back? The narrative begins to change. And once that narrative changes, Bitcoin faces a problem it has never faced before. Not inflation, not regulation, not competition. A crisis of scarcity itself. At first, this may sound confusing, because even if quantum computers unlock lost Bitcoin, the 21 million limit does not change. No new coins are created. No inflation is introduced. The Bitcoin protocol remains exactly the same. So why would the market care? The answer lies in a distinction investors understand very well. Total supply is not the same as available supply, and market trade available supply, not theoretical supply. Imagine a large gold reserve buried on the ground. Everyone knows the gold exists, but nobody can access it. For decades, the market behaves as if that gold is unavailable. Then one day, a new technology appears. Suddenly, the gold can be extracted. The amount of gold in the world hasn't changed, but the amount that can reach the market has. And that changes everything. Bitcoin may face a similar situation. For years, many investors have quietly discounted millions of lost coins. They still count toward the 21 million limit, but they do not count toward the effective supply. In practice, many market participants think about Bitcoin differently. Not 21 million, but perhaps 17 million, maybe 18 million. Coins that can actually move. Coins that can actually be sold. Coins that can actually enter circulation. Now imagine that assumption breaks. Imagine the market suddenly realizes that 3 million Bitcoin may not be permanently lost after all. Nothing changes technically, but everything changes psychologically. Because scarcity is not only mathematics. Scarcity is belief. And the markets price belief. If investors begin to believe that millions of dormant coins could eventually return, Bitcoin's scarcity narrative must be recalculated, not eliminated. Recalculated. Many people assume that if lost, Bitcoin returns. Prices will simply fall by 15 or 20%. But markets rarely work that way. The real question is not how many coins exist. The real question is, how quickly can they appear? Speed matters. A lot. If 3 million Bitcoin return over 20 years, the market can probably absorb them. If they return over 10 years, the effect becomes more noticeable. If they returned over 5 years, investors start paying close attention. And if the market believes they could return within only a few years, the repricing could become severe. Not because the coins have already been sold, but because investors expect them to be sold. Markets price the future. Long before it arrives. And that may be Bitcoin's real supply shock. Not a new Bitcoin. Old Bitcoin coming back from the dead. Most people think the biggest danger is supply. More Bitcoin. More sellers. More pressure. But supply may not be the real problem. Because markets don't collapse when they see losses. Markets collapse when they lose confidence. And if one ancient wallet can be unlocked, how many others could follow? That question may be worth far more than 3 million Bitcoin. The biggest threat may not be the return of lost Bitcoin. It may be what that return tells us. To be continued.